Welcome to Politics as Usual. It's your boy Marz.
And it's your girl Jay.
Today we're going to be having our very first episode, so I'm so happy that you're here to join us. We're going to be talking about the trial of Officer Derrick Shaven. We're going to be talking about some things going on locally that are making the national news, so let's just get into it. So today was the first day of the trial for Officer Derrick Shaven, the Minneapolis officer who's been charged with the murder of George Floyd. This occurred on May 25th, 2020 of last year. We all know about it. It made national news, it made global news. And now on the quest for justice, we've had the very first day of the trial. So some numbers that were very important to me that I really want to bring up. So number one, 17 minutes. 17 minutes is important because from the time that the officers were called, that's how long it was before George Floyd was dead. 17 is another important number because that's the amount of complaints that Officer Shaven had, or Shaven, or whatever the hell this guy's name is. 17 complaints. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you work, I don't know too many people can get 17 write-ups and still have their job. So that's a very important number, a very important number. Three, the number three is important because that's the amount of shootings that Officer Shaven had been involved in, one being fatal. And then another important number is 27. 27 is important because that is the amount of times that George Floyd on the recording said he cannot breathe. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if someone says they can't breathe, it seems to be that it's pretty important. 27 times that man laid there on his stomach saying he can't breathe. And then we all thought it was 8 minutes, 46 seconds. But the trial relayed that the time that Officer Shaven actually put his knee on George Floyd's neck was 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
That's insane.
I want that to sink in for every viewer here. I want that to sink in. 9 minutes and 29 seconds that he left his knee. And it's so much trauma going on as a person of color in this country, as a Black man, seeing people that look like you get taken out for no reason. Right. Every single day, it seems like. And I think it's just crazy that the defense was, oh, this man did drugs. He may have had some heart issues, and that's the direct reason why he died. It had nothing to do with a man laying his neck on his knee on your neck for almost 10 minutes. So it's rough. It's rough.
We saw that in Eric Gardner as well. Like when
absolutely, I can't breathe.
They were saying that it was his health that really caused him, like he had a heart attack or whatever the case was. And it was nothing to do with the chokehold that was going on. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, you guys are trying to really grasp at straws when it's very blatant that you don't care. You absolutely don't care. And it's just to see it again, it's just crazy too that literally was the same thing that they both said before they passed, seemingly the same way, being strangled, with their airway being blocked, and then it's just outrage. Like you can't not feel anything, but at the same time, it's sad that I know that I'm kind of desensitized as well because I've seen it so much. You know what I mean? It's like this weird catch-22.
Well, it's a numbness because it's happened so much. It hasn't had the type of outrage, not only in the Black and brown community, but just in the global community. It hasn't had the type of outrage, even though there's been protests and there's been people that stepped up, and it's not the type of outrage that should happen. And we see it far too often that the first thing people say is, well, he was committing a crime. If he didn't resist, maybe it wouldn't have happened to him. The man was accused, not proven, accused of passing a fraudulent $20 bill to buy some cigarettes. And the last time I checked, $20 does not come with the death penalty, even if he was 100% guilty, especially when we see people of lighter shades committing actual crimes,
Right.
actual violence, and actual loss of life, not only be taken away without injury. I mean, these guys look like they had a stop at the salon before they get in the car. They are that untouched, that
Right.
unruffled. It's beyond me.
Oh, and their stomachs are full because they go get, fast food on the way in. And
Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. Absolutely. I mean, that might be something for some hungry people. If you can't eat on the streets, commit a crime. If you're the right shade, you might get a free cheeseburger out the meal.
right. It's just really sad. And like you touched on that, like just rewatching that, I realize now, especially a year now later, I was upset. I sad, all those things, but I wasn't it enough. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah,
literally watching it and being like, I wasn't it enough because there is no way that I should even be sitting and letting any of this slide. This is not just waiting and seeing what you do. No, this, why are we the only people feeling this? That we have to continue to carry this burden as we also have to then, continue to see ourselves in these videos, constantly. It's just repetitive, and it's like at a certain point, it's like I just ask a lot of times in people, it's like, what do you want us to do? Like, what literally do you want us to do? Because at this point, you leave no options because we can't exist. We can't just live. We can't, just be. And then when you do murder us on tape, we are still looked at as like we're the criminal. We still are literally, microscopically gone through to see where we messed up in the scenario of you doing something clearly illegal.
clearly,
Actually illegal.
clearly.
Like, so automatically, no matter, like, to me, there are certain points and things where it doesn't matter at a certain point, like what the other person did, because what you did was wrong. So once you've done something wrong, whatever happened after that from that wrong thing doesn't matter. Just because he did something doesn't mean that you can come in and literally execute him. You don't get to do that. You don't get to be all
Judge,
like,
jury, and executioner.
you don't get to do that. Doesn't matter what uniform you wear, it doesn't matter. And it's just after that too. It's after you knew that he was dead or that he needed assistance, that you needed to call EMTs, that you needed to get somebody to get him help. You still did nothing. You still actually continue to be on his neck until they tapped you to get off. They had to tell you to get off.
And that brings up a very important point, which I feel from that footage. And today was the first time I've watched the footage since May of last year because it was that horrifying.
Right.
What it does to your spirit, realizing that that could be you, a loved one, a family member, a friend, it can hit close to home. And we'll talk about that later when we talk about what's making national news locally. This level of police brutality can really hit at any time. And you don't even have to be committing a crime. You don't even have to be in your car. As we can see by Breonna Taylor, you can be sleeping in your bed, but the recklessness and the amount and the extent of the acceptable police brutality, it leaves you in a perpetual state of fear, a perpetual state of anxiety. If I make it, when you see those red and blue lights behind you, you literally flip a coin and you don't know if you're going to make it if you're a person of color. And I don't think the rest of the country really realizes what that does to a people when it feels like if I step out of this house and I get pulled over, even if I do everything right, even if I'm law-abiding citizen, it doesn't matter if the person that pulls me over has a bad day. And if they do something negligent to end my life, chances are I probably won't get justice. It's a
Right.
rough feeling. It's a rough feeling.
You're literally in a rock and a hard place, because either way, even if it goes left, you don't have anything to stand on, because your word is not even on a regular, just think about a regular encounter with a police officer, especially at a traffic incident. When you go to court to plead your case, you're already looked at as if you were in the wrong, right? So just in a regular scenario. So now heighten that to when your life is taken, it's like automatic where like you're the bad person. And it's just, I don't understand. You're the criminal. I don't understand why it's not so clear to everyone that this needs to change. Like, that we're still fighting for like some sort of reform to this happening. Like, even as we rewatch these videos, we traumatize ourselves, right? We're still having to get reform on the books. Like, we still have yet to actually have national, like across the board, just like policy change. Like, this is not going to stand anymore. Like, any of those things, we have to fight for that. At the same time as people tell us that they're with us, like it's this vicious cycle of like, just stop lying. Just stop. You know what I mean? Just stop. Like, and I don't know at a certain point is if we know that we're getting lied to, if we should be just mad at ourselves for even just going along with it. You know what I mean? Like, again, we're not mad enough. We're just not mad enough.
I always say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. At this point, it's fool me 636,000 times in the history. I mean, when you really look at the history of police, they started off as slave catchers. And I don't think that mentality has ever changed. And unfortunately, because of the pay or lack thereof, because of the amount of things police officers are asked to do, the lack of training, and the lack of actual repercussions.
Right.
Police officers have qualified immunity, which essentially means if I kill you in the act of doing my job, it's justifiable. And this has been something that politicians have been debating, and it's become more and more prevalent as these, and I hate to bring up this type of imagery, but these modern day lynchings occur, and that's what they are. And I'm an 80s baby. I remember Rodney King. I was very young when this happened, but police brutality has been something that's ingrained in the Black community. That even if I didn't grow up in a bad area per se. I haven't had any personal experiences with the police really, being pulled over a couple of times, certainly, but I've been able to talk my way out of it. And I don't know if it's because I wear glasses and I look non-threatening, or, I don't know the reason why I've been able to, for the most part, walk away unscathed, but it still impacts me on a daily basis because I know it's almost like playing the lottery. And they always say, it's just one bad apple. But if you see the bad apple, if you're at this packing plant and you see this rotten apple and you let this apple slide on the conveyor belt, you're just as guilty. You're just as negligent. And I think, honestly, the fact that only Officer Shaven is being charged with the charges he's being charged with, and the others are just being charged with as abetting is just an abortion of justice. It's disgusting. These guys, if I'm riding in the car with three of my friends and I'm driving and three of them decide to pull out a gun and do a drive-by, we're
Mhm.
all getting charged.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like, how is it always so different? So different for you. You guys live by completely different rules and standards. And it's just, it's like just forgetting that simple fact that you guys are not above the law. Like you enforce the law, but you're not above the law. You know what I mean? Like you still have to account for something and be held responsible. And I just don't understand that, especially when people will go back and forth like, oh, all lives matter, Black lives, all will go back and forth with us about different things, but not realizing like the way things are set up now, you can be against Black lives, whatever, but you're literally going to have to pay it too, because where's the lawsuit money coming from? Where's the, all these different situations and things like that, you're going to have to pay for that. So why not go ahead and try to figure out how we can change this so this could stop happening and everyone could stop not having to foot the bill for something that the officer doesn't even have to pay for. You know what I mean? Like they're just get to scoot off and get their pension and live happily ever after. And it's just like, how is that? Makes no sense to me, and it's just logically, like just as an everyday citizen, like you would be mad if that's how it was, like,
I mean, it's all about the name of the show, and it's politics as usual.
right.
Unfortunately, when you have, and I am pro-union, don't get me wrong. Let's state that right now. I am pro-union. I am for the people. I am for the workers. Have always been. But in some cases, a union can become so powerful and so corrupt, and they're only looking at their own interests instead of the people that they're sworn to serve. And that's one of the problems why we don't see any legislation to actually get change and get systemic change, because that's what it's going to take. Because a lot of people say the system is broken. I don't think it's broken at all. I think it's working exactly how it's designed. So we have, and I'm a little disappointed that Biden hasn't been stronger on it. He said some things, about reform, but he's scared to say what needs to be done, which is defund the police. And some may even say take it a step further to abolish the police. I'm not necessarily there where I think we should abolish the police, but I think we need to look at this rotten system. And sometimes you can't repair it. You may have to root it up and start over. And I think that's what we need to do. Once again, 17, think about that number, people, 17 complaints that this officer has had. And ask me if at your local McDonald's, if any employee had 17 complaints, would they still be employed?
Yeah. It's just it, and said, I understand unions. I'm for protecting the working class and the people. I think you do need to make sure that you're protected from what big business and all those types of things and your best interests are looking out for. But again, where are the standards? It's like it's fine to protect the good cops. But I think that there needs to be a distinction between what is allowed and what isn't. And I just think right now, what's happened across the board is that we've seen that, okay, we may get grand jury, we get a trial, but I, I'm not satisfied until I actually see a conviction. And even then,
The sentencing.
yeah, and even then, because you have you have like, is it Geiger? Was it Geiger? Was it Bothan Jean?
I can't remember her
I
name.
can't remember. Like, I feel, but she, was so remorseful, tears, hugs, Bibles. What's she going to do? Appeal? I need to get out of here. I'm not, oh no, I'm remorseful, but to a point. You know what I mean? I'm just, so it's like, even if the officer, Shaven, was to say like, oh, the same thing, repent, I'm atoning, I am so sorry for what I did. I just don't know if that's enough with this, even with this officer. If he was to go to jail, that's not enough. That's not going to save the next person. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I can't trust it. I can't because so many times it's like they'll throw someone out, like you said, he's getting charged, but all of them were guilty. All of
Absolutely. Absolutely.
them. So even if you allow them to go back, how is that helping anything? How is that saving anyone? If anything, now, now they know how to watch their back more, you know what I mean? Or now they're going to take it out more on that community. Like, the only way I can see it actually stopping is with, accountability, and the police departments actually making sure that there's standards that are being followed. You mentioned we were going to talk about locally. Here in Virginia Beach, there was actually a shooting on Friday at the Virginia Beach oceanfront. And it was labeled as a mass shooting across the board at all press when it first came out. But in all actuality, it was 3 different incidents that occurred in like a short period of time. And one of the incidents was a police shooting where the police officer shot and killed Donovan Lynch. At this time, the police chief has come out and said, Paul Newdigate has come out and said that the officer was not wearing their body cam. It was not operating it wasn't operating.
I'm
For some
surprised.
shock, oh, gasp. It wasn't operating. And, the police officer's on administrative leave. But again, with the accountability, because like I said, there was another person was killed, and her name was Shayla, and the other incident that occurred, they got those suspects. So they got the suspects in that, but the police officer has not been arrested, still has their job, even though they did not follow a protocol, which was to have their body cam operable. And the police chief just recently, like in December, when the other incident that occurred in Virginia Beach was the Lynn Haven Mall incident, where a man, last name Mackey, was detained, unlawfully, but he was detained by police officers in the food court with his family. And they said that he resembled the suspect of some incidents. I guess something had happened in a store, and they arrested him, like put him in cuffs and walked him out of the mall. And it was a lot of outrage because, of course, hello, why do you get to just tell me I fit a description? Like, why is that just pass? Shouldn't just work, right? So people were upset reasonably. But the police chief was asking for, please give us time. Please let us figure this out. Please give us, just compassion and understanding in this matter. We're trying to sort it out. And set in guidelines for the police department to follow. So within that, they had amended the body cam policy. So this is literally fresh. It said, do not do this, follow this, XYZ. This police officer does not do that. And it's like, oh, we'll investigate. Oh, another tidbit of information. The city council in Virginia Beach just voted about 2 weeks ago that the police department will be able to investigate themselves as far as issues such as this. So in regards to any type of police shootings, any incidents, the citizens review panel, or in their case, it's the investigative review panel, IRP, they don't have any subpoena power. They can't question anybody. They can't put any, you know, reprimand anybody. Basically, you can just hear the details and write a nice essay on it and give the information, I guess. But the ultimate decision on if anything is going to actually occur comes down to the council and the city manager and the police department ultimately. So all of this is happening within the last 90, 120 days in general. You have the situation with George Floyd in the same, year span. We're coming up on the year that this has really been an insane, you know what I mean? This year and everything. And again, it all comes down to us asking, but not getting anything in return. There's no accountability. There's a lot of words with no actions. There's a lot of victim blaming, but no actual progression at all. And especially in cases like Donovan Lynch, immediately you have the police department as well saying, give us time to investigate. But they have no problem telling the press, like, oh, he had a gun, or we found a gun near the scene and it possibly could have been his, and all of these different types of ways to try to smear the, the good
Name of the
name.
victim.
Yeah, the name of this college graduate, of this person in the community, this big brother to his little sister. You know what I mean? This upstanding citizen, you're framing him when you don't even give us the name of the police officer that shot him. You don't let us know who did that. You don't let us know so we can find out about them and find out, you know what I mean, what's really there, because you're protecting them. But you also want us to feel like there is a open dialogue, that you will have our best interests at heart, that, the police are there to protect us. We went down to the oceanfront Saturday, the day after Donovan was murdered. And, just being out there, you have the police that block off the roads and you can't get, access to the, the protest route and any of those things. And I just can't help to think that they don't know that they're the people that need to be left out. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to protect citizens, but I feel like it's not real. Like there's no realization that you are the person that we should be scared of and like worried about. You know what I mean? Like that's the community outreach. Like there's too much put on the community as far as, oh, there's a bad stigma of police and all this, and it's like, no, the stigma is not ours to break. The stigma is not going to be broken by us, you coming out and doing photo ops, or passing out
Dancing with us, like the other officers that were at the Black Lives Matter dancing and line dancing, and then they stormed the Capitol on January 6th.
Right. And, and that's what I think people forget. Like when we ask for the citizen review panels, in every city we want them across the board, not because we don't believe that police should be there. Like we believe in police, we believe in what the idea of it is, right? Like, we do need structure, we do need protection as far as like, when things do happen. But I do think that there's an overstep that happens. I do think that these things need to be, there's checks and balances, and these citizens review panels offer that, as people in the community can then offer insight and help. And like, I think the officers and police departments tend to always look at it as if, oh, we don't need you coming in and regulating us. But if you're not doing anything wrong, like you always say, why is it always so hard for you to wear your body cams? Why is it so hard for us to get information when it's freedom of information? Like we should have access. It's people are wait for years to get information on things that you know what I mean? There's no transparency, but you expect us to build community engagement and for us to, you know, kumbaya raw with you and all those things, you know what I mean? Like, but why you're the people that put this here, you know, you put the stigma there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not our responsibility to rebuild the trust that they've broken. It's just
Right.
like it's not our responsibility as people of color to end white supremacy. We
Yeah.
didn't establish these concepts, these institutions, these programs. It wasn't us.
Yeah.
Step one, it has to be recognized, and it has to be recognized when these things keep happening, from Eric Garner to Freddie Gray to George Floyd to Rodney King and to
Bland, Breonna Taylor,
Breonna Taylor, and the list goes on and on and on. It feels like there's at least one every month, and in
right.
some cases, multiple. The system is broken. The system is broken on their responsibility to protect and serve.
Mhm.
And I think number one is to admit that for the last 60 years in this country, people of color, I mean, well, more than 60 years, but the last 60 years, the police force, where we're supposed to have equal rights since the civil rights movement, police have been used, unfortunately, to enforce white supremacy guidelines, standards, rules, and regulations, and that has to be recognized. I think it's telling when the threats against President Biden occurred during the inauguration, when they really vetted these officers, and these are officers on the Capitol Police. Many were disqualified for being on white supremacist pages, you know, making racist comments on their social media. And that's how comfortable they are, that they'll go in a public forum and express their racism. And it goes all the way from the police officers to the courts, even in the education system. We have people who have no desire for equality, social justice, or anything besides white supremacy in institutions where they're in charge of our well-being. And that's in the educational institution, the health institution, where we go in to the hospital for a cold and never come out, and especially in the policing institution. And right now, everyone has the ability to have a voice. Social media is so powerful that we see these videos, we're outraged, we protest, there's no justice, we riot, rinse, cycle, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to find a way to stop the cycle, because unfortunately, I hate to sound cliche, but this is a vicious cycle of the same thing. And the first thing that the media does is make the victim seem like the criminal. They dig up every single thing. And I don't care if George Floyd had a kilo of whatever drug comes in kilos in the trunk. The charge is not death. It's not. It's not. And I watched that video today so we would be able to make this podcast. And the man from the jump was in fear. He never resisted. I saw the whole video. He never resisted. The only thing he said was that he's claustrophobic. And I didn't see them read him his rights, which is one thing. You're supposed to be told what you're being arrested for. He just gets yanked out of the car.
Why
And
he kicked him out the car, we don't know, because he was in the car. So if
he
you're
was in
trying
the
to,
car, right? And
why would
I
they
saw the
follow
video
him?
from the beginning. It went from the people that worked at the deli or the bodega. They came up to him.
Question, did we ever, did they keep saying alleged $20 bill. So did they ever confirm that the
No,
bill was indeed
there,
counterfeit?
there was no confirmation. No,
Okay.
and the thing
Well, I
about
never heard that either. I was like, was there
yeah,
any actual confirmation?
no, no, there's
Uh,
never been any confirmation that it was an actual counterfeit, which is a moot point. But yeah, it never. And the
right.
thing about it, which
Yeah, it's not even a thing, but I'm just like,
yeah,
how did we even know? How did you know? Like, there's been times, in instances where you can go to a cashier and say that they think that you gave them 10 and you say you gave 20 and now they have to count the whole, like, you know what
sure,
I mean? How do you
sure.
know right then at the spot that he gave you a counterfeit $20 bill? If he was able to get it out of his car, I mean, out of your store, sit in his car for minutes
Clearly, you
before you
couldn't
guys
tell the
walk out.
difference.
Right, right. So how, you know what I mean? Again, I'm not, but how? I just need to know.
Well,
I
and that's my question. If I purchased it, you gave me change, gave me my product, and if I'm passing a counterfeit, I'm not gonna stay in the car and listen to my music and smoke a
right,
cigarette. I'm gonna get the hell out of there. Most
right.
counterfeits are never 20 because at most, how much change are you gonna get? $6.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of counterfeiting, you do it with a big bill. I buy 100, I get 100, I buy a stick of gum, and now I get 99 real bills back. So
Right.
even if it was counterfeit, if it was good enough to pass, who says he didn't get that back as change?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Do you really? We're in a mostly cashless society. I so rarely have cash. I don't even know who's the 20. Wasn't it supposed to be Harriet Tubman? I don't.
Mm-hmm.
If you gave me a 20 right now, I couldn't tell you if it was real or not because I don't use cash.
Because I've worked service, I've worked retail, I've had counterfeit bills given to me either through tips or just, change back. So, and not even me, but when I go deposit at the bank or whatever, that's when I notice that it's counterfeit. Like I'm not passing the bills, but I got it. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so it's like, okay, well now what? You know what I mean? But God forbid I could have lost my life over that. Like, you know what I
Sure.
mean? Like,
I remember 20 plus years ago, a good friend of mine, I worked at a electronics store and we got some brand new high intensity laser printers in, and we wanted to test it to see how good it was. So he put a $20 bill on the copy machine, and we were like, holy crap, it looks authentic. And he put it in his wallet, just joking because he was going to do a prank where on the backside it was blank. He was going to put sucker, and we're a bunch of teenagers, and he was going to put it where someone reached for it, and then when they reached for it, they would have realized it's fake. And
mhm,
we go to lunch, and he accidentally grabs the counterfeit bill to pay for lunch, and it was a big kerfuffle. And we had to explain, oh no, we were just testing the printer, and luckily, obviously nothing happened. But just something like that, where some 17-year-old kids are playing around with a printer, you could possibly end your life. So it's just very scary. And the poor gentleman, provide us the name of the gentleman that was shot in Virginia Beach.
Donovan Lynch. I'm actually trying to pull up just so I can share this and give you the full facts of that.
So I know I read they confirmed that the weapon was not his.
Right. And
I
so,
know
yeah,
that's been
that was one of
confirmed.
the things that they put out there that he possibly did have it, which is just upsetting on so many levels. But I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, I'm going to read it from my phone. Okay. So this is just a tidbit. This is from the BLM 757 page. They actually, which got it from the VA Dog Wood News, which had posted it, but it just gives you a little bit of tidbit about each of the cases, basically, right? So case one. So the first incident took place at 11:20 p.m. on Friday. and there were several people in a fight. They pulled out guns, they started shooting with bullets, hitting people nearby. There was an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 22-year-old that were all arrested. And all three faced 7 counts of felonious assault, use of a firearm in the commission of a felony, and reckless handling of a firearm. Right, cool, got that. 2, while the officers were handling that situation, right, they reported hearing gunshots around the corner. They found 29-year-old Deshayla Harris. She is from the Bad Girls Club. She's a resident of Norfolk, and she passed from her gunshot wounds. She died at the scene. They said that she was just a bystander and caught a stray bullet. And it says in a second shooting, right? And no arrests have been made from that. So when the other media, the major national press was saying like, oh, this is a mass shooting, technically, right? Yes, multiple people were shot. Technically all in the same amount of time. Was it the same gun or same person? No, right? So there was a lot of misconceptions about that. And then because the first news that came out about Donovan was that Donovan had passed or was killed, they were assuming that he was then a mass shooter at first. Like people were associating him with that. And then so that had to go away. And then you had the police department and stuff coming in, but I digress. Before I go into all that, I'm gonna case 3. So this is Donovan. So the third shooting took place on the 300 block. So we're like all pretty much within the same couple blocks because the oceanfront is obviously a strip of oceanfront. So in that same block, you have the number of streets, and then you have like Atlantic and Pacific, right? So in between, like basically from, let's say from the 20th block to the basically 20th, but like another block over, right? The police officer involved shooting. Donovan was 25 years old. He was shot and killed. He said that the original statement from the police was a uniformed police officer in the immediate proximity of the location encountered an armed citizen, which resulted in a police-involved shooting. However, in a press conference Saturday, Police Chief Paul Newdigate admitted there's no evidence linking the gun found in the vicinity to Lynch. We have not had an opportunity to interview the officer yet. We don't know what the circumstances are. He also admitted that the officer kept his body cam off. So another issue that I had with this police chief, this is again backtracking a few months, was when he was speaking about the Lynn Haven situation and Mr. Mackey that got falsely arrested or put in handcuffs. He said, we are investigating the situation. We're getting to the bottom of it. We are here to make sure that everything is okay and this doesn't happen again, right? This is not the Virginia Beach we know. And also in that breath that somebody asked, right? I was like, that's not the one it's the one that many people that look like
I know it very well.
Yes. Okay, right. So in that same breath, when he's asked, hey, so what was the conversation like with Mr. Mackey, like when you reached out to him? Oh, we haven't spoke to him yet. So how are you investigating anything? Investigation means you talk to the victim of the crime, right? Absolutely. So you don't just talk to your homeboys and be like, and you decide what the actual thing is. No, like you actually talk, you have that uncomfortable conversation with the victim. You know what I mean? And it's so hard for you to get in touch with him, but at the same time, multiple news outlets. He was on like morning shows. He was everywhere. Like you could have talked to him. The family wanted to talk to you and get to the bottom of stuff. So, and another thing is like, if you know that this man was accosted by your officer, why does he have to reach out to you? Y'all should be running circles to get out and get to him. You know what I mean? Like, it's little things like that that I feel like there's a disconnect on how you build community engagement and you show people that you care about them. It's real basic, right? It's just basic. Like, forget you're a police officer and I'm a citizen. Like, just like basic, how do you build a relationship with somebody? You show people you care by your actions and your intentions. Like, you know what I mean? You don't just say a bunch of stuff and then do something different and expect it to be okay. Like, you just can't. Like, that's just not how it goes. So I don't understand why it just isn't understanding that this is any different, other than you thinking that we shouldn't even be like asking you to do anything in the first place. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unless you just think that we are just completely out of pocket and out of place, that's why we don't even have the conversation. You know what I mean? And we're never going to get anywhere if it's like that.
Absolutely. And it gets old. It gets old really, really fast because we're not valued as human beings. I feel in this country we're valued as commodities. If we can sing or dance, throw a football, play, dunk like LeBron James, or if you're funny like Dave Chappelle, then we have some value for you in this country as a person of color. If you can, but don't speak, don't have any thoughts, shut up and dribble. If you're LeBron, don't interview presidential candidates if you're Cardi B, because all you can talk about is WAP. They limit the experience of being a person of color to some type of monolithic stereotype. You see it with every race in this country. And then they say, it's a melting pot and we're the greatest country in the world. Well, we can be, but we're not right now. We're not even close, for the simple fact that we aren't even living up to the ideals that we put in our Constitution, because they never thought we would be free. They never thought that their property is kind of like if everyone that owned a pet, the pet start coming up and saying, we want equal rights and we want to be fed regular food and we want to be, we want the same size room as you have. And you would say,
I want filet mignon.
But yeah, I mean, it's up. I wouldn't even say we're treated like pets in this country, because nowadays pets are treated better than most people of color.
Right.
So it's rough. It's rough, and right now we need to organize. I think we need to strategize. I think we need to unite, because two voices or three voices aren't enough. So I know you're my favorite revolutionary. If you could let people know about some of the organizations they can look into and really get out there and help get the voice. If you're sick of it, because if you're not sick of it, something's wrong with you, because it's going to be someone you love in that news article or on that video saying they can't breathe if we don't do something now.
It's so true. You're too kind, first off. Thank you. Yeah, because when we saw that, right? Because it went from Eric, to now, and it's the same thing, the same things being said, the same pleads, the same everything, and something's got to change. And they say be the change you want to see, and I guess it just means it's only us that could change, doing something different. I am the creator of K.U.S.P, which is keeping us safe and prosperous, formerly keeping us safe from police, rebranded, because realizing that it's more than just the police that's the issue, right? We need a complete system overload. I think with everything, we tend to update our phones more than we update anything else in our life, right? So we haven't looked at
my dad.
Yes,
Probably
right.
still on iOS 7.
That phone is just like, it's a tortoise, just just
Absolutely.
just
He's
trying to
still
make
trying to figure out free sales. So
it right. Um, but no, it's like we need more. We need infrastructure that is completely and utterly just reliant on us. And we can no longer continue to ask um, for anything. Period. I think asking for stuff is 2020. I am very much
or 1820.
yeah, 1820, right. Like I'm good. Like I'll ask for forgiveness because I think the biggest thing that I've taken from 2020 is let them show you the way, right? I think January 6th kind of solidified that premise, right? That 2020 kind of was kind of trying to push over, but January 6th was like, oh, this is what that means. It means no longer asking for anything. It means putting up or shutting up, right? And what does it mean? And what are you willing to fight for? What are you willing to do for? I'm not saying that we need to go to the Capitol. That's old. That's January 6th. But I'm saying that we need to look at the ways that other people are able to uh, mobilize, to get together, to work from the inside, um, to use laws and policies that are already in place for our benefit. Um, we need to look at, the way that these systems that are able to continue to thrive, what they're doing right in a sense, right? And just break that down and make it work for ourselves. And it starts locally, it starts with your neighbor, it starts with all of us. With Black business, it starts with us being vigilant for each other. Um, but it just starts with us because, again, we can continue to ask, but it's the same way as someone says, because 2020 was all about the entrepreneur. Everyone needs to be a CEO, right? So everyone
Your
can understand,
LLC.
right? But the thing is, everyone can understand the concept of no one's ever going to pay you what you're worth, right? So you have to be your own boss, or or do whatever to be able to get your worth. And I feel like that's the same mentality as far as us getting ahead is we can no longer be an employee mentality. We have to be the CEO. We have to really start to think about not expecting our boss or the owners to see our plight and change the policies in the company. We need to just figure out how to start our own company and get it up and going and figure out what we need to do. And I think that's where we're at. And I think like I said, it just starts locally and it builds from there. I don't think the answer is trickle down economics anymore. I don't think it's anything nationally as far as if we need it nationally. I'm not saying we don't, but I'm saying the change is really going to come when every individual cluster starts working out. We need to think Tulsa. We need to think Seneca. We need to start thinking rebuilding. So.
Absolutely. And that's what this platform, Politics as Usual, it's not just about highlighting what's going on in America. It's about having that conversation, organizing, strategizing. We want the listeners, if you're a Black lawyer, holla at us. If you're a Black doctor, holla at us. If you're a Black legislator, Black police officer, Black fireman, Black teacher, or person of color, I should say, not just Black, because we're Black, brown, we're all united. And even if you're a white police officer, but you're tired of it, and you are one of the good apples, you have to use your voice. Mm-hmm. So this platform, this is our very first episode, but as we expand, as we grow, we want to get people out there. We want to point them in the right direction because there's a lot of people out there that just want to use the movement to either make a buck or increase their profile to become more famous. That's not what we're about here. What we're about here is really impacting the community. So once again, please check out K.U.S.P. Please check out us here on Politics Unusual. Also check out my podcast, Down in the Den, which is mostly an entertainment podcast, but we do have very special episodes like Moesha, that was my show. Shout out to my aunt Shirley Ralph, who's the mom on Moesha. A lot of people didn't know that. But
That's your aunt?
well, she's my cousin or something like that. But she's older, so we call her auntie. She's probably gonna
Sorry.
yeah, she's probably gonna not like that being called an auntie, but that's the Ralph family. But ultimately at the end of the day, it's really about no longer just making minor steps and taking small victories. We can't do it anymore. We have to, because they're hunting us.
Yeah.
And it's going to impact us all if we don't stand up and do something now. And right now, I think we have about 2 years. We have about 2 years left before they really start cranking them in the right and before more elections. And we saw when we organize and we come out and use our political power together, we can get some incredible things done. Who would have thought that a president who gets 70 million votes would lose?
Mm-hmm.
Even though some would say he didn't, Senator Cruz. But it's another episode. But who would have thought we could do that? Who would have thought we could flip Georgia and make that state blue? So shout out to the Queen, Stacey Adams, for helping to do that. Bow down, exactly. So it shows that what we can do, but we have to be on the same page. And that's one thing, I'm thankful for 45. We won't say his name on the show, but he helped galvanize and really show us what our neighbors really stand for. It's almost like they painted themselves with the scarlet letter by wearing MAGA hats, and we can really see what they stand for. So, take when someone shows you who they are, listen to them. And if you are an ally of the cause and you have a friend or a family member that is just spewing hatred and these ludicrous beliefs, it's okay to never talk to them again, even if it's your own mom or dad. Because at the end of the day, if we're a global family, if that's what we want as a people, if we really want to be a melting pot, we have to recognize our individuality, see color, recognize that we have different experiences, that even though we all live in the same country, it's not the same country for us. If you're Black, if you're lesbian, if you're female, if you're gay, if you're handicapped, it's a different country for you. It's not the same. Your experience is not going to be monolithic. And we may never have true equality because some people are born with different advantages that are going to put you in a better station in life. That's just the reality of the world. But certain aspects of the country, we have to have equality. That's justice. That's medical systems. That's the climate we live in. That's clean drinking water. That's food. Those things should be equal. And like you said, the trickle-down experiment did not work for us. It worked for the people that it was set up for, but it didn't work for us.
It didn't even work for regular degular. It didn't work for anybody.
It worked for the Wall Street.
The business. That's literally it. Only thing. Like it's the only thing, but it doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work. It you have to, like you said, think where you want to go and work backwards. That's the only trickle down that you can do. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely. And how certain people, wash their feet in the shower. Trickle down effect. But we thank you. Absolutely. It's a word. That's a word. We thank you so much for joining us on this first episode. As always, we want you guys to think with your minds. We want you to act with your heart. And it's your boy Marz signing off. Jay, I'll leave it to you to close it out.
It's your girl Jay. And yeah, stay black.
Or,
Or light black.
Absolutely. Ooh. All right, y'all. But thank y'all for listening to Politics as Usual. We'll be back soon, same bat time, same bat channel. And as always, power to the people.
Yeah, all the time.
That was good. Am I ending?
Huh?
Yeah, okay. That was good.
It's recording.
Huh?
It still says it's recording.
I put in meeting. Oh, it does say it's recording. I'll edit that out.
Oh, I've been holding in that yawn forever. God Lord.